Hello, I'm Rob White, president of Envision Strategies, and I'm really excited to be participating in our second year of this series of conversations with higher ed leaders and practitioners. And this series has provided a great forum for us to explore current issues that affect most of us in higher ed. And particularly as we continue to figure out what post-pandemic really looks like and where we go from here. And so today our guest is Stephen Barr, who's Director of Business Services at Virginia Commonwealth University, which is an urban campus in really the center of historic Richmond, Virginia. So Stephen, I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about VCU and your areas of responsibility in the diet.
Thanks, Rob. As said, my name is Stephen Barr, Director of Business Services. Been at VCU for about 8 years. VCU is an urban institution right in the heart of Richmond, Virginia. We serve about 29,000 students, and in dining in particular, we're looking at 23 different dining locations, which is a combination of residential dining, obviously some retail dining, and then our newly minted or opened grocery store, which is something that we're kind of diving into and bringing to the campus as well as the urban environment. Oftentimes, you find yourselves or people talk about food deserts and things like this. We're trying to break that and bring some of these services into the heart of campus. Business services at VCU consist of not only dining services, but we do exclusive beverage, we do snack vending, we do graduation regalia. We also do bookstores, which we have two, because VCU is not only a traditional academic campus, we're also a medical campus. So we're actually two campuses that we talk about. We bookend downtown Richmond, about 2 miles apart from each other. So we have services on both campuses. And lastly, mail services for VCU.
Just a few things keep you busy.
Just enough to keep me busy, keep me on my toes and make sure that I stay young, connected to the campus.
That's the secret. Great. Well, so the first area we wanted to kind of chat about is complexity, or really overcoming complexity, and wanted to get your sense of maybe the different areas or challenges you've seen arise in which you had to address complexity in your, say, in business services or even specifically dining.
I think some of the complexities that come now with auxiliaries have to do with how fast we have to pivot and how fast we have to be a little bit of everything for everyone. No longer do I think that we can sit and do these 5-10-year plans and be as granular as we need to. And I think some of the complexity comes because of that granularity and bridging across to the student affairs groups, the wellness center folks, counseling services, actually faculty, as we're out there going in and getting some, all the stakeholders together to talk, to figure out what is happening on campus. Post-pandemic, we see the mental issues and stressors that are coming out with our campus, and our students, what they want, what they feel they need to be connected to, what matters, whether that is, from sustainability, whether that's from hours of operation, whether that's from sourcing of product. All of these things together now, we need to be more concise, we need to be more deliberate, and we need to be more upfront with what we're doing, because I think there's an expectation there where I think in previous generations of going through, it was just like, hey, where's the chicken sandwich? And that was it. People would just show up like, the chicken sandwich is over there. They're like, great. Now it's, there's a lot more data points, I think, that come from A to B that we need to figure out in between that to help navigate the complexities that we deal with.
So the chicken sandwich example is a really good one, in a very simplistic way of illustrating complexity, whereas perhaps in the old days, a chicken sandwich was all that people wanted to know. It's, well, okay, great. Now it's important to be able to tell people where the chicken was sourced from, if it's hormone free, is the bun, is there a gluten-free option for the bun? And all of these things, because you're managing the business services, you're not actually the operator yourselves, introduces complexity in ensuring that, because we have a much more, I guess, activist and informed, customer base, if you will, in public. But so I'm wondering, in your work, what strategies have you employed, even just broadly, to kind of overcome some of these complexities, or really, kind of embrace and deal with?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've got some responsibility, and to ourselves, to our community, and to the greater Virginia area, I think, in making sure that we are properly conveying the message of our VCU community in what their wants and needs are. So I think it's important for auxiliaries to kind of be that conduit in between. Obviously, we don't have the direct relationships or contracts with the suppliers, but our partners do, and it's no mystery now that we're a global economy. We can source things and get things from all over the world, but all of the world does not play by the same rules sometimes, and we should lead by example. And I think we do. We try. We go out there and we say, hey, we want to see some responsibility, whether that's food related. I mean, obviously, the supply chain with food is very important. It's easy to get complacent. You're like, I've done this a million times. I know how this works. It's a chicken sandwich, right? Like, how hard is this? Chicken sandwich, done. But we still have to remember to ask those questions. There's a lot of things that change. I think the pandemic taught us that. It was really quick. How many food providers thought that they were going to get a box full of chicken, and one day the truck opens up and shows up, and they got a box full of pork loin or something in its place. And all of a sudden, all the questions like, where did this pork loin come from? Can we source it back? What's happening? And I think people want to know, right? People are more educated. They know more about their sources. And we need to do a better job and continue to do a good job of letting folks know where things are coming from.
How do you go about connecting with the campus community broadly, and then even, kind of your colleagues in other departments? You've mentioned student affairs, and then perhaps, residential life, athletics. What have you found to be successful in allowing you to connect, to make those connections?
I find the most successful thing is pounding the pavement and getting back out, getting out of the office. One, it helps. Obviously, you can see what's happening real time on your campus and in the ebbs and flows and traffic patterns that are happening. But go out and just a quick meeting, a 30-minute meeting somebody in one of the spaces, meeting in their spaces to understand what's going on. You can find a ton of different disciplines on a university where there are all these niche areas. But at some point, we all have to realize and come together that we're all there for the same reason. We're serving the same group, right? Our students. And as soon as you can kind of go out and build down, break down those walls, it makes it so much easier. The other thing I realized is that letting folks know that you're not coming to take over their domain or their world, right? A lot of times people are hesitant because they think, this person's trying to get something over me, type thing. I like to come to the table, bring in and say, look, we're all serving the same folks. How can we help each other? How can we communicate? As soon as I started figuring this out, and not just talking a bunch and actually figuring out some purpose behind it, it started to get some good success out of that. And because of that, I think we're more effective in providing services for our students that mean something.
Would you have an example of one of those kind of collaborations that helped turn the key for you?
Yeah, absolutely. More recent example of something that we're working on right now is with our student comment, which is our student center. We're looking at going into their space and setting up demonstration kitchens with our executive chef and our registered dietitian, and using their space to create a temporary kitchen and hold classes. So that teaches kids the basics of, here's a quick recipe for salsa, or we're going to make some vegetarian sushi, like type thing, and set it up. And we want to continue to do some sort of programming like that into some other spaces where we might traditionally not be in. Sure, we have a food court that exists, but a food court is just that temporary stop to grab something and go, right? Not something that makes folks sit down, build community, build a relationship. And that's part of the intention of doing some of these collaborative efforts, so that we can build that community and we can build those relationships. So students feel comfortable coming to us too with suggestions and ways that we can improve, because, it's always a continuous improvement moment.
You referred to your the folks who provide the services, your as partners, which I think is that's a very commonly used term, but wonder how you live that out in terms of that communication between the departments at the university, but then between you and your business partners. Do you how often do you interact? You have daily meetings, weekly meetings, kind of what are the mechanics of that, of how do you build that communication and maintain that communication with your business partners?
Yeah, sure. One is I make sure to schedule time that I am not in the office and I'm out walking around. Personally, I feel there is no better way to understand the operations, what's going on, without being in the middle of it. You have to be in the middle of it and understand, and not an idle 2:30 on a Friday, try to figure out, when most of the students have kind of decided that maybe, it's beautiful weather, they need to go out to the park or do something like this. You need to be there in the middle of the lunch rush to watch a few waves go through, to understand what's happening and where are we successful and where we have some misses, and we need to take care of that. And I invite my partners in all of those areas that I mentioned, I invite them out with me to walk the floor and see things during those times as well, so that we can approach it from a student perspective. We don't enter through the back loading dock areas or the back of house areas, because the employees see those all the time, right? And that's not stuff that the students see or any of our customers see. We enter in through the front doors just like that, so we can get that visual, that first impression, just like they do each day. Constant communication is key. Being deliberate in where you're approaching and how you're approaching is key. And not just taking it for granted that we already met last week and we probably just need to skip it. You can, obviously there's always that but make sure that you schedule some time to get out of the office and check out the spaces.
Are there areas you feel like it's other than just providing the service that business services contributes to the overall mission of the institution? That's a very broad area.
No, I'm with you. On that. Yes. So our philosophy in business services is that every dollar we generate above and beyond paying our bills, we want to sink back into students, whether that is refreshing or rebranding locations to make sure that they are in good working order, or they are food menus or menuing or choices that students have now versus what they might have had 2 or 3 years earlier. We want to make sure that they are coming into a nice, clean environment, a safe environment. So we take some of that money, obviously, and we invest it into our spaces. We have zero deferred maintenance. That's part of the goal of the office. I tell our staff all the time, my goal is not to put it off for later. Let's take care of it now so that it doesn't become a problem later. We all know that the longer you wait on something as it goes on, the cost is more than likely going to go up. And we want to nip that in the bud and be good stewards of the resources we have. The other component that we do with that, once we kind of have our game plan for what we're going to do with our spaces and any sort of refreshes or renovations, is we go back and give to our financial aid offices and other departments money for scholarships to offset the cost of education for our students. The idea is for food insecurity to help the student out before they feel the need that they have to get off campus to save money. We want to keep them on campus as long as we can, because we know that if they're on campus, there are some amenities and some resources available to them that could help them through their higher education trajectory, so that we can get them out and graduate them early and they can be nice, productive Rams in the Richmond area or beyond. So if we can offset the cost now, hopefully that helps them say, you know what, if I move off campus, this is, it's kind of a wash. Let me just stay on campus. And that's good, because then we know that they've got a meal plan. We know that the food insecurity is not going to be an issue, because they can come to us at any time. They can get a great meal and they can go on. Our goal is to try to put all that money back into the students. I mean, obviously the money started with the students. They're buying those chicken sandwiches. They're buying those beverages. They're buying that VCU merchandise. And we want to take that money and reinvest it back into the campus community so that they get the best experience that we can provide to them.
Are you seeing any changes in patterns in the, where students want to eat, whether they're continuing perhaps, kind of triggered by the pandemic to eat on the go, or are you seeing either a desire for or a need for more return to dine in? Particularly given we understand you've got a pretty significant cohort of first generation students that may just be trying to navigate their way into college life in the first place.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting run watching patterns, right? Watching the traffic patterns and student consumption patterns, I guess would be another good way to go through and look at it. So, as soon as we got, I don't want to say like, hey, pandemic's over, yay. But as soon as we got back to realizing how to function with the pandemic still being around and we were able to start getting back in person and doing things, I think everybody kind of just assumed we're going to go on this mobile, isolated, pick up and eat somewhere by ourselves trajectory, right? And this is the world now. We've probably heard that. Everybody who's listening has probably heard that, like, this is the new normal, right? And all these catchphrases that came out that way. But I think we've learned at the institution that people are entities that we're gatherers. Like, we need to gather a little bit, and we need to have that togetherness for some of these things. And when we don't have it, I think we're finding that students are having a hard time, and there's some mental health issues that are popping up. And auxiliaries has the benefit of having spaces and environments and programming to bring these students back together. I think it's really important that we bring a sense of community and togetherness back into our spaces, especially dining. Dining is such a great opportunity for togetherness, right? Like, for breaking bread and talking about what's happening in the day, and, oh my goodness, can you believe this? And just disconnecting, right? And it helps with so many things, not only just letting folks have an outlet to blow off some steam and talk about the things they don't like about what's happening in the world, but also developing communication skills. We, as business services in VCU, we want to build those relationships and bring those students back together again. And we're being very intentional with it. We're currently working on talking about how to create experiential services in each one of our key areas. So, we've got tons of square footage on campus where we can bring a lot of people together, but you got to make it an experience and have a reason for folks to come together. No longer is it just as easy to say, oh, hey, we're having a carnival event and we're going to fry a bunch of Oreos and come on in. We're being very intentional on some of the programming in our spaces to bring experiences there so folks show up, and believe it or not, they actually can do things and interact without their mobile device. Right. And that's not to say that we're not going to keep mobile ordering. We're not going to have kiosk ordering. There is a world and a niche for that. And that needs to happen on campus because there are some people that's what they prefer. But we're going to be very intentional in the next few years of making sure any refreshes, any rebuilds, any programming that we put in place is very intentional to be able to build those communities again, because I think we've lost them. Building them together, I think that's the next step. And it seems so weird because for us, you're like, what do you mean bring them together? Like, I'm together with my team or my folks. I know how to do that. Right, we know how to do that. But there's a whole generation of students that are sitting on campus that we need to be able to provide those environments again for them, so they can do that too, and can relearn how to tie back into the campus community, how to build school spirit, and just have fun, be students.
Yeah. Wow, that's an awesome. I mean, it actually elevates dining to not more than just feeding, but being kind of critical part of building the fabric of the community and really our culture back, which I love that. I mean, that's the thought that you could go through a year or two of your higher ed experience totally online and on a mobile device is kind of depressing, actually. And, but besides that, where's the value equation in that? I mean, why would you pay all that money just to do all that, to do this? And if you don't have that basis of experience and the skill set, of how to interact and the value of that and wanting to do that, I mean, I think it must be even harder. I mean, so you're really fascinating, and will be really interesting to see how you take that, what direction you take that in at ECU. But Stephen, this has been awesome. Thank you so much, and good luck starting in the fall. Now that we've had our wonderful summer, and we'll be checking back in to see how that vision is realized.
Yeah, thank you. A great opportunity to talk, always to share with you all and with our peers out there. I wish everybody the best success, and I know we're out there. We're doing our best. We're pounding the pavement, we're shaking hands, we're kissing babies. We're making it happen.
I kind of stopped on the kissing babies part, but okay.